The woods don't keep secrets, they bury them. We head out into the wilderness looking for peace, a quiet escape. We pack our gear, check our maps, and tell ourselves we're ready for anything. But you can never be ready for the moment the forest turns on you, when the rustle of leaves stops sounding familiar and starts sounding like something watching you. These aren't ghost stories whispered around a campfire. They're true accounts of people who walked into the woods and straight into a living nightmare. Be warned, these are not for the faint of heart. For most of us, a trip into the great outdoors feels like an adventure, a chance to disconnect, to test ourselves, maybe even to heal. But sometimes that adventure mutates into a desperate fight for survival against threats you never imagined. Tonight we re-delving into 3 of the most disturbing true stories ever told by those who were stranded in the wild, and an incident so strange it remains one of the world's most enduring unsolved mysteries. We'll uncover a brutal midnight axe attack, a baffling disappearance leaving behind only haunting photos. These are the stories that will make you think twice about ever being alone in the woods. Story 1. The Cline Falls Axe Attack. Imagine the summer of 1977. 2 Yale students, Terry Jantz and Ava Goldman, were living the dream. They'd set off on a cross-country bike trip following the Trans-American Trail, pedaling east from Oregon. Young, determined, and free, Terry felt uneasy, like someone was watching, but she chalked it up to paranoia. On June 22nd, exhausted after a long ride, they camped by the Deschutes River at Cline Falls State Park. Around 11:30 p.m., their peace shattered. Barely conscious, they realized the nightmare wasn't over. A truck engine roared to life in the darkness and slammed straight into their tent, crushing their bodies under its wheels. She staggered in the dark toward the glow of a highway and collapsed in front of a car. The teenagers inside, horrified, rushed to get help. He began swinging it over and over, hacking at both women in a frenzy. A shadow climbed out of the truck, not to help, not to flee, but to calmly pull out an axe. He returned, driving his truck through the camp one last time before disappearing forever into the night. Somehow Terry, bleeding and broken, managed to wriggle free. When rescuers returned for Ava, the attacker hadn't gone far. Both women survived, though Ava required emergency brain surgery and was left with lasting injuries. But the most chilling part? The attacker was never identified. No motive, no arrest, no justice. He simply melted back into the darkness like a phantom and vanished. Story 2. The Lost Girls of Panama in April 2014. 2 Dutch students, Lizanne Froon and Chris Kremers, arrived in the mountain town of Baqué, Panama. But first, they wanted to hike the famous El Pianista Trail. They planned to volunteer and learn Spanish. Smiling guides trekked for weeks. Nothing. A woman found Lizanne's blue backpack near a river. Relaxed, a search began. They never returned. Locals saw them heading up the path. Helicopters combed the jungle. When they missed an appointment the next morning, cash, sunglasses, and Lizanne's camera. Inside were their passports. It was as if the forest had swallowed them whole. 2 months later, they tried to call 112 and 91177. Attempts over 10 days, none successful. The bones, the desperation frozen in those final images, no explanation feels complete. The call logs revealed something chilling. Less than a few hours after starting their hike, a few showed plastic bags tied to twigs, a mirror on a rock, and one image Lizanne's hair, possibly streaked with blood. Then came the camera photos. But then, a week later, 90 photos appeared snapped between 1 and 4 a.m. Most were pitch black. The first showed them smiling on April 1st. Searchers found scattered bone fragments. Lisanne's boot still held her foot. Were they trying to signal for help or fend off something they couldn't outrun? Weeks later, the photos, authorities called it an accident, lost hikers dying from the elements. But to this day, the evidence doesn't add up. It remains one of the most unsettling wilderness mysteries of our time. Story 3. The Dyatlov Pass Incident. This is perhaps the most famous wilderness mystery ever recorded. In January 1959, 9 experienced hikers from the Ural Polytechnical Institute set out for the mountains of northern Russia. Led by Igor Dyatlov, what they found stunned even hardened rescuers. Cut open from the inside, dressed only in underwear, huddled near the remains of a fire. All their warm gear still inside. Bare footprints led away into the snow. They were well trained and prepared for the brutal conditions. Military tests, infrasound-induced panic, or something stranger still. Every theory leaves questions. Their goal was to summit Mount Otorten. When they failed to check in by February 12th, search parties set out. The Dyatlov Pass remains a riddle, a reminder that the wilderness holds secrets we may never unravel. Their tent was shredded. The first bodies were found near a cedar tree shoeless. 3 more were scattered between the tree and the tent as if trying to crawl back. All 5 died of hypothermia. 2 months later, the last 4 bodies were uncovered in a ravine, buried under 10 feet of snow. Their injuries were shocking. Fractured skulls, massive chest trauma described as like being hit by a car, and most unsettling of all, one woman was missing her tongue and eyes. Some of their clothes were radioactive. The Soviet investigation declared they died from a compelling natural force. Theories abound avalanche more than 60 years later,